Hello, all my power peeps. Welcome to the T-shirt transfer paper power half hour, brought to you by the many wonderful folks here at Conde Systems Incorporated. My name's Doug DeWitt, transfer paper product manager here at Conde Systems and host of the show. Thank you very much for tuning in today. Working with me behind the controls, doing the directing, our good friend Rodeo Bo. In Rodeo, we got a great show for the audience today. We are doing another lesson in the Digital Factory 10 RIP, the RIP program that's now provided in the Crio white toner systems. If you purchase an 8432 WDT or a 9541 WDT, you are going to get this RIP software package. And today, we're going to teach you a lesson that we think you need to learn because it is really going to cut your production time and save you a ton of money. And that's learning how to gang graphics within the RIP. Now, of course, before we get started with that, what do we got to do, Rodeo Bo?
Pay the power bill.
We got to pay the power bill. Okay, first up, we've got two sales running right now at Conde Systems concurrently. We've got the all you need is sub sale. We've also got our overstock sale. Make sure you take advantage of them because they're not going to last long. Go to our dietrans.com website, click on the banners for more information. We're also running a contest, Rodeo Bo. We are still running our Winter Wonderland Gallery contest. That contest expires end of March, I believe. But there are some valuable Conde credit prizes in that contest if you win. I think the grand prize winner gets something like $400 in Conde credit. Just astronomical amount of credit. I mean, think of all the stuff that you can buy. So make sure you get your graphic loaded into our gallery contest. Again, click on our website for more information. And we've got a webinar coming up, Rodeo Bo, on Wednesday, March 2nd at 3 o'clock Central Standard Time, because it's not going to cut over to daylight savings time just yet. But the topic is goal setting for your sublimation business. It's going to be hosted by Aaron Montgomery. I think David Gross is going to sit in on that one, so should be a great topic. Make sure you tune in. That's Wednesday, March 2nd for that webinar. All right, Rodeo Bo, let's go ahead and get started here. What we're going to talk about is the process of ganging graphics within the work area of the Digital Factory 10 RIP. In other words, taking a small graphic, step and repeating, and filling up that workspace with a number of graphics. Now, why do we do that? Well, first off, the principle behind it is every graphic that you can gang onto a transfer sheet, you are cutting your cost per print. So if you have one graphic and you're able to fit another graphic onto that same sheet, guess what? You just cut your cost per print in half. Another reason we're doing this is because this process significantly reduces your material usage. It's also going to reduce your labor. Wouldn't it be easier to weed 20 pocket logos at one time as opposed to weeding them individually? Well, I think so. The other thing is that what we got to remember is when we're working with a lot of these self-weeding papers, once we do the weeding or marrying process, if we don't use that logo or graphic right away, we can store that logo or graphic some type of sealable container away from direct heat and moisture. But a lot of these graphics you could store for up to a year. So you could go ahead and get started with a repeat client by having their logos or designs ready to go. So what we're going to do now is we are going to jump into the Digital Factory 10 software RIP, and let me show you how easy ganging process is within this RIP. Bo, if you can get us over there, please. Thank you very much, Bo. Okay, we are in my computer. We have the CadLink Digital Factory 10 RIP open. Just a few things before we get started here, ladies and gentlemen. First off, you'll notice we've got two queues. We've got a photo queue and we've got a graphics queue. I'm going to work in the photo queue because the graphics that I'm going to be using today are JPEG graphics, and I'll explain that later on. Now, before we get started, what we want to do is make sure that we have our paper selected. I'm going to be using Forever Dark. We're going to go with a letter size sheet. Now, of course, it should go ahead and set our multi-purpose tray, our media type, and our media weight for us. So once we've done all that, let's go ahead and open up our first graphic, Rodeo Bo. I'm going to click on Open, go into my file, and the first graphic I'm going to play with is our own T-shirt transfer paper power half hour logo. I am going to zoom out on the preview slightly so that you can see it. there it is. We've got a 3" by 3" logo. I know that this logo comes in at around 300 DPI, so we should be good to print. Now, it would be wasteful just to print one 3" by 3" logo on an 8.5" by 11" sheet. So let's go ahead and add a number of copies here and gang this image up. What I want to do first is I want to position the image. Here, I've got the position from the horizontal and the vertical. I'm going to set those to 1/4 of an inch. Pretty easy to do. Go ahead and move our graphic up. Now, once I have my graphic in position, I will click Copies. And the first thing it will do is it will put a copy in the horizontal position. Now, you'll notice here, if I try to drag this out, it won't let me. It's only going to allow me to basically expand out to the number of copies that would fit on this 8.5 by 11" sheet. Now you'll notice here I have no room in between these two copies. So let me go ahead and add a 1/2 inch. And you see we've got instant spacing here. Now that I have these nodes up, what I can do is go ahead and drag the vertical. And keep dragging, and fills in. Okay, so in other words, just with 2 simple drags, we can go ahead and fill in the maximum number of logos I can fit on this sheet. Now again, I have no spacing here between my logos. So let me go to my vertical spacing. I'll add a 1/2 inch of vertical spacing to those logos. Go ahead and center the logos to the page. And now at this point, I can go ahead and go into my job properties. So if I were putting these on any color garment, I would want to make sure that my white toner is on. I would set my coverage at 200%. Go ahead and do a 2-pixel choke of that white. Now, when it comes to the ink removal, I could add a raster pattern to this, but since the graphic's only 3" by 3", it's really not necessary. So I can disable that feature right there. And at this point, we're ready to rip that file. And once the file rips, you will notice if you have filled out your cost calculation, you get a job cost here, $5.98. Now, this calculator is a little skewed because I factored in other variables, such as labor and the amount of times I have to use the heat press. But if we highlight the design and click on the calculator, you'll see here, as far as our total toner cost, we were at 19.08 cents total cost. So let's go ahead and round up and just say that this was 20 cents of toner. If we're using a $2 8.5" by 11" transfer sheet, the Forever Low Temp Laser Dark, then basically with the cost of the toner, we've got $2.20 in this. So once I have my design ready, I'm going to go ahead and click on the print button. And if you can get back to me, Rodeo. Thank you very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to show you the first design as it came out of the 8432. These are our ganged up logos of the T-shirt transfer paper Power Half Hour, 3" by 3" at 300 DPI. Again, as far as material cost, we were looking at a total of $2.20 for the entire transfer. We divide that by the number of transfers in the design. We're basically coming up with about 35 cents per graphic. Not bad. So that's the simple process of gaining designs within Digital Factory 10 RIP. But as you know and I know, life isn't always that simple. What we're going to do next is a more realistic application of the RIP, not just with the ganging aspect, but other aspects of it. Because what a typical job would be is someone sends you their logo, let's say, and they've got it as a JPEG. And in this scenario, we're going to take this JPEG logo and we're going to turn it into a 2-inch tall design and see how many we can gang on one sheet. So Bo, get me back into the RIP and let me show people how I do this one. Okay, we're back in the Digital Factory 10 RIP. Again, I've got my paper selected. I've got my size, my input tray, media type, media weight. Let me go ahead and open up my next graphic here. Like I said, somebody sent me their brand logo and they want this as a 2-inch by 2-inch design, or at least 2-inch tall. Okay, so here's the design. First thing we need to notice is, look at the size of the graphic. We're talking almost 8 inches across, almost 5.5 inches tall, but the logo is basically encapsulated within the rest of the JPEG. Now, just to show you, if I change the background color of my worksheet, notice the area around the JPEG is still white. If we tried to send this through the RIP to the printer right now, basically what we would get is this logo in this huge giant box of white. As a matter of fact, this is so big, I can't even gang this logo right now. I'm going to have to do a little editing. So let me cover these steps real quick. First thing I'm going to do is make sure that my graphic's highlighted, and I am going to edit with GIMP. Now, GIMP comes loaded into the Digital Factory 10 RIP, and basically this is what I'd call a scaled down version of Adobe Photoshop. But here's my crop tool right here. I can go ahead, crop out a lot of this excess white, and get something truer to size. So let me go ahead, crop that out. Now, whenever you want to use this graphic, you need to do an export if you plan to do it as a PNG. So I'm going to export this. Let me go into the graphic that I'm using here. Export it as a JPEG. Export. So now that we've done some quick editing to the size here, you'll notice that the original goes into a waiting queue, but I'm going to go back into the photo queue. I want to go back into the photo queue. It looks like I've got a computer crash, ladies and gentlemen, so bear with me. Always happens when you're live. So let me go ahead and restart this. I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, make sure my paper is set. Let me get back into that folder radio. There's my edited design. Let me zoom out a little bit so that you can see it. Now, at this point here, the design is 5.21 inches tall. Let's run through our scenario. Let's make that a 2-inch tall logo. Let's go ahead and set the horizontal and the vertical. I always like to use a 1/4 of an inch from the edge of the sheet here. Now, as far as the resolution is concerned, if we really don't know what resolution we're working with, we can click on Supersize Image and do a quick check. This graphic right now is at 260 dpi. That should work. Okay, but remember, we still have to contend with this white background. Okay, so let's edit with Fluid Mask. There's our Fluid Mask here. We've got our Delete Local Brush selected. And with a few clicks here, I can go ahead and knock out this background white. Let me change the pixel size of my brush so I can click into all those little nooks and crannies. Let me zoom out so that you can see that we are essentially eliminating the white. And now we can save and apply. And we've got the background eliminated. So now we've got a 2-inch logo, we've got the background eliminated, now we're ready to go ahead and start ganging this logo. Again, let me click on copies. It will add a second copy. I'm going to add 1/4 of an inch space between those copies. And at that point, I can just grab the node and start dragging out, and it will fill in as many as it can. Let me zoom out a bit here so we can do the vertical. There we go. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows and 5 columns. That's 25 logos on one sheet. So now that we have them all here, again, we can go ahead and center. We can run through our production process. White's enabled, although in this particular case, since we're doing composite black, it's probably not going to lay down white, but that's a good thing. What we don't want to do is have it do any type of rasterization. We're just going to print as is. Let me go ahead and rip this file. Now you'll notice here, again, it's saying that my total job cost is $22.53. That's probably what I'm going to charge my client. But if we go into the calculator here, you'll see that on toner cost, we basically used 10 cents worth of toner to create 25 graphics. So we've got a graphic that's a $2.10 graphic when we're talking about the cost of our paper and the cost of our toner, but we basically got 25 on there. Now, I calculated at 20, and that was 11 cents a logo. So if we're able to squeeze an additional 5, well, that means less than 10 cents a logo. So Rodeo, if you could get back to me. This was my earlier attempt where I got 20 on a sheet. Now you'll notice here there's a little bit more spacing between these. But then again, if we had to reproduce a bunch of these for a client, you know, as far as spacing is concerned, we can work around that with a pair of scissors. But like I said, it's ganging them up on one sheet. So basically with this sheet, we're talking less than 10 cents a logo. So let me show you one other trick in the Digital Factory 10 when it comes to ganging designs. Now, the first 2 examples we did, we basically took the same design and ganged them out. Well, what if we had a different design that we wanted to add on the same sheet? Let's see how that's going to work. Bo, if you can get me back into the RIP, please. Thank you very much. Okay, so here we are. What I'm going to do is take this original design and open it. And you see, once I've got the design highlighted, if I wanted to remove some of these rows, I could do it just by moving the node up. But let's say we wanted, the client called us back and said, you know what, while you're working on those black logos, since your printer can print with white toner, can you do white logos so I could put them on color designs? Well, let's go ahead and see his white logo. Bring that in. I'll zoom out a little. So, you know, what clients typically do, if they want a white logo, they're surrounding it in black. So we basically have the same issue. We got to eliminate this black backgrounding. Now, the first thing I want to do is basically point out the fact that I went ahead in the interest of saving time and edited this design in GIMP. So let's go ahead, like the last example, let's make this logo 2 inches tall. Let me right click, select supersize image so I can check my resolution. My resolution is at 259 dots per inch. That is good enough. Cancel that out. But again, we got to get rid of this black background. So what I'm going to do here, and bear with me one moment. I'm going to change this background back to white. Let me highlight this. Again, let's use the fluid mask. Let's do a couple of clicks to knock out the background black. Let's select our tool. Let's change the size of that tool to 2 pixels. So we can get inside here. Again, let me zoom out to show you. Let's save and apply. Okay, so now we have this design in white. Let's go ahead and add it to our sheet above where we've already got the logos in black. Now, if you just try to drag the design, you see, I can drag it anywhere I want on my current sheet, but I can't drag it up into the first sheet unless we hold the control key down as we drag. And now I've got that image ganged on our original sheet. So we can see it. Let's change that background color back to gray. Try that again. There it is. Okay, so now we can go ahead and position this. Let's position it 1/4 of an inch from the edge. And let's go 5 inches from the top. Actually, maybe we can tie it a little closer. There we go. Now again, we just run through the same process. We click on copies. It adds an extra copy. We can set the spacing between those copies. We'll grab our node, drag it out, fit 5 across. Let's drag down. Oh, there we go. So basically the same 5 across, 5 down, 25 logos. But now we've got 10 in black, 15 in white. So at this point, what we can do is rip the file, and you'll notice that the rip combines the graphics into one file for us to shoot to the printer. Now, one thing you have to bear in mind when you do this step is if you're ganging multiple designs within a single sheet and you're applying any type of raster or screening method, it's going to apply to all those graphics on that sheet. So you can't have a graphic where you're basically going to print unrastered and then another graphic on the same sheet where you're screening for black, so to speak. You basically have to use the same method on all of them. But Bo, if you can get back to me, please. So here's our sheet of black and white designs. Go ahead and set them up here. Now, when I ran these through the calculator, this is, I guess, 20 designs, and it came in at around 14 cents per design. So by tightening up the space between the designs, so to speak, being able to get that extra row on, again, we're going from about 14 cents a logo down to about 11 cents a logo. But what I can do now is go ahead, apply my B sheet to this, weed out all these logos on this sheet, and then basically trim them and apply them as I need. If I go through my job and I have additional logos, hey, don't panic. Just put those logos in some type of sealable container, like a Ziploc bag or a Tupperware bin. Like I said, once you do the prep process, you can pull that same design and still apply it to a garment up to a year after you originally produced. So those are some realistic examples of how to do ganging of designs within the Digital Factory 10 RIP. Now, of course, there are tutorial videos available at CadLink where you can dive more into the process, so to speak. But what I love about this particular design in the Digital Factory 10 RIP is they make it very simple to operate. Just so you know, there is a similar feature within the Forever Transfer RIP that's called layout. But that process is way more complicated to use than it is with the Digital Factory 10. If you had to do multiple designs and you're using the Forever Transfer RIP, my advice would be to do this process within your graphics software. If you're using Adobe Photoshop or Illustrator, or if you're using Corel Draw, go ahead and do your ganging there and then bring it into the Forever Transfer RIP. If you have to edit within the RIP, it's going to be a very time-consuming process. But doing these steps within the Digital Factory 10 RIP, it's quick, it's easy. As a matter of fact, we don't have to bring our graphics out into another software program. We can do all the basic editing and ganging within the Digital Factory 10 RIP, send that job off to our printer, saving us a lot of time, saving us a lot of money. Well, I hope you found this episode informative. Remember, if you have any questions about the material that we covered here, hit us up with our inbox, TTPPHH@Conde.com, and ask away. We'll be more than happy to reply to your questions. You can also leave a comment either on Facebook or on YouTube. We will answer those questions there. And if you think anyone else might find this video useful, don't forget you can share. You can like it as well. Do it. Like it, click it, share it, mess with that algorithm, you know what I'm saying? So we are going to have our next episode of the T-shirt transfer paper Power Half Hour in 2 weeks on Tuesday, March 8th. Now, if you happen to be a sublimator and you're wondering how you can do cotton T-shirts with your sublimation setup, you're going to want to tune in to our episode March 8th because we are going to cover the Forever Sublilite no-cut transfer paper. I'm going to show you some graphics that you can use, some simple tests that you can do to calibrate your heat press quickly to use this product and to give you more successful attempts with the Forever Sublilite no-cut. So make sure to tune in to that episode. That's going to be Tuesday, March 8th, 3:30 p.m. It might be daylight time, it might be central time. I don't know when the time change is coming, but I know it's coming soon, right, Rodeo Bo? But we don't have time to wait, we have to go. Thank you for tuning in to the T-shirt Transfer Paper Power Half Hour. My name's Doug DeWitt, Transfer Paper Product Manager here at Conde Systems. Our time is up, but we thank you for yours.